chapter 2, Rights in the Indian Constitution. See, here what does constitution means? Constitution is the set of rules, and these rules provide us also the rights to live and for the better administrative society. So, the rights which provide humans for their basic living is called the fundamental rights. And now, directive principles of state policy. This mainly focuses on a welfare state, that is, a well developed state. Let us learn about these fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy in detail. Now, coming to fundamental rights, the meaning of the word fundamental rights means the rights which are basic or the rights which are very important, and these are adopted from American Constitution. In the American Constitution context, Bill of Rights is called the fundamental rights. Okay, in India we call it fundamental rights, in America we call it Bill of Rights. Okay, is that clear? And even before the implementation of these fundamental rights in the Constitution, Motilal Nehru Committee in 1928 demanded for the implementation of this Bill of Rights in the law, but it was rejected. And now, are fundamental rights and ordinary rights same? Now, what are these ordinary rights? Ordinary rights are those rights which are given for the administrative purpose. These are given to legislative, executive and judiciary. Now here, what is legislative? Legislative means which frames the laws. Judiciary means which protects the laws, and executive means which implements the laws. So those all the rights which are given to legislative, executive and judiciary are called ordinary rights. These rights are for the better administrative system in India. And now let us look at the difference between fundamental rights and ordinary rights. And fundamental right mainly focuses to protect people from the government. See, generally if the government, that is maybe executive, maybe legislative or maybe judiciary, violates, while not judiciary in 99.5% case, but maybe in legislative or executive, if they come to violate the fundamental rights, then the Supreme Court or the legal rights protect these fundamental rights. And now these fundamental rights are in the part 3 of the Constitution, and ordinary rights are other than part 3 of the Constitution. And now these fundamental rights are protected by Supreme Court, whereas ordinary rights are ordinary rights are not protected by Supreme Court. And if they want to change any of the fundamental rights, they have to change it by special majority. Special majority is 2/3 of present and voting. Guys, I have also taught the 4 types of majorities, and the link is given in the description. Do watch that video if you don't have idea about the special majority and simple majority. And now ordinary rights can be changed by simple majority, that is 1/2 of present and voting. Now, before we used to have 7 fundamental rights, but after 1978 we only have 6 fundamental rights. Before, the 7th fundamental right was right to property, but in the Kesavananda Bharati case 1973, Supreme Court wanted to abolish this fundamental right. Why? Because to abolish the zamindari system and slavery system in India. Bond agricultural laborers were more in that time, and forcible working of laborers was done by zamindars. So this right to property was taken away from the fundamental rights, and this was taken away by 44th Amendment Act. 44th Amendment Act. Now what does this Amendment Act means? Amendment means the change in the Constitution. And what is the difference between bill and act? Bill means if they introduce anything like changes in fundamental rights or change in ordinary rights, if they introduce these in Parliament, then that is called a bill. And when the President signs the bill, or gives accent to the bill, then that is called act. Is that clear, guys? And now we will learn about right to equality. Sorry, we have 6 fundamental rights. The 6 are right to equality, that is Article 14 to 18, right to freedom, Article 19 to 22, right against exploitation, Article 23 to 24, right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28, cultural and educational rights, Article 29 to 30, right to constitutional remedies, Article 32. Now we'll learn in detail about Article 14 to 18, that is right to equality. Now, this right to equality is very important because the society did not practice it before. Unequal statuses and because of this inequality in India, the lower people, especially the Dalits and backward class people, suffered a lot. So, to eradicate all such problems, this article was introduced. And let us assume a situation on why this article why this right to equality is important. See, imagine if you are educated and belong to the Dalit community and village people call you to clear the leftovers and ask you to wash the feet of the groom and the others present in the marriage, will you do that? No. And what is the reason behind it? You are educated and you have fundamental rights to protect you. But if you are a Dalit in the past, that is maybe before 1900 or 1947, then even if you are educated, you are forced to do that work, what your parents does. Why? Because we have no constitution framed and no fundamental rights framed to protect our right to equality. Yes, students, these fundamental rights are that important. This has changed the life of many Indians, especially the Dalit and the backward communities. And I hope you got a clear idea about this right to equality. Now coming to Article 16 Clause 4, that is, nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision for reservations for backward classes. Now what does it mean? This means the state, if wanted to develop the backward community, it can give reservations to that community. And no one can, revolt against that. In this article, was implemented by Maharashtra government recently in the year 2020, and it was successful, providing around 50 to 60% of reservation for backward classes. So, yes, Article 16 Clause 4, this simply means if the state want to make special provisions for backward sections in reservation, it can implement it. And now coming to right to freedom. Right to freedom is, see here, before learning this right to freedom, for a democratic country, 2 rights are very important. One is equality and the other is liberty. Liberty is also called freedom. So, Article 21 states that right to life and personal liberty. I have said you, liberty is freedom. So, no person can be arrested without telling the reason for such arrest. If arrested like that, the person has the right to defend himself by lawyer of his choice. And now why I am telling this? Because this right specially, for these arrested people itself. So even if you are arrested, if they don't have any specific warrant, then you have right to apply habeas corpus. I will tell you about habeas corpus in this upcoming chapters. It is there in this lesson itself. That will be very interesting. And now, see, no person can be arrested without any reason. And if arrested like that, he has the right to defend himself by a lawyer of his choice. And it is mandatory that the police should take the arrested person to magistrate within 24 hours of arrest. Is that clear, guys? If magistrate is, see, actually the magistrate is not a part of police, and he or she will decide whether the arrest is justified or not, that is valid or not. So Article 21 also includes the right to live with human dignity. That means no one has the right to humiliate you or exploit you. And see here, no one includes even the president. Why even president? He is the head of the state. Why he is also included? Because this is a democratic country, that is people's rule, and we have equal before law. That is everybody, including this president, is equal before law. And now Supreme Court has also added the right to shelter and livelihood in Article 21 itself. Now we'll learn about preventive detention. These all are under Article 21. We'll learn about preventive detention. Now what is a preventive detention? See, if a person being arrested without doing offense, preventive means before any occurrence they are taking the step to overcome that loss. So if they will arrest the person to prevent the unlawful activity. They think that if the government think that the person might be engaged in doing unlawful activity and then take him to the custody, then that is called preventive detention. And this preventive detention is often misused, especially by governments. This preventive detention can be extended only for 3 months. Is that clear? That means the arrested person can be only in custody only for 3 months. And this also restricts the scope of judicial interference. Even the judiciary can't do in this case of preventive detention. And in many cases, this preventive detention was misused by government. See, during the national emergency in 1971, several leaders from opposition party has been arrested under preventive detention. And the next is right of accused. Accused means who has done a crime. So what are these rights? We have three rights of this accused. One is no person should be punished for the same offense. I hope this is clear for you. And the second is no law shall declare any action as illegal from backdate. So from backdate, no law can be said that was illegal. And the third point is no person shall be asked to give the evidence against himself or herself. Is this clear, guys? And next is right against exploitation. See, there are many exploitations in our country. Some of them are forced labor without payment. Second is human trafficking, that is buying humans and using them as slaves. And third is bonded labor, that is in especially in brick kilns. And all these are different forms of exploitation, and many of these exploitations has been controlled after these has been declared a punishable offense. It also prohibited children to do dangerous jobs like in mines, factories, crackers shop, etc. And now the next right is right to freedom of religion. See, Indian Constitution gave people the right to follow any religion of one's own choice, and the basic principle and their basic principles, unlike in the other countries where, see, if there is no democracy in other country, and if only monarchical form of government exists, people are forced to convert into their ruler's religion. See, recently we have also seen that number of burials were there in the Canadian Christian school, which was a hostel in the past, because many forced conversions from children was going on. And if the people, they were tortured, they would torture the students, and so many things has happened in that, and especially Christianity was blamed at the end. So many religious fights are occurring now. So in our country we don't have those type of humiliations. Everybody has the right to freedom of religion. And see, we have two. One is freedom of faith and worship, That is, the constitution gives all the rights to religions and can follow any religion or choose not to follow any religion. Is that clear? They can also choose not to follow any religion. But the constitution does not allow forcible conversions. Now, the other thing is equality of all religions. It means it has several religions, and to implement religious equality, it obtained the principle of secularism. What is white? Secularism. And what does this secularism means? Secularism means giving equal importance to all the religions. That is secularism. This was also added in preamble of Indian Constitution. And now, cultural and educational rights. Under these, all the people are encouraged to maintain their culture and language, especially for religious minorities. And the other aspect of these rights is that all minorities, religious or linguistic, can set up their own educational institutions. Is it clear, guys? The main theme of this right is the people, especially from backward or tribal areas, they have the right to secure their culture, language, tradition. So to secure those things, cultural and educational rights were implemented. Is that clear, guys? And the next is right to constitutional remedies. See, this is Ambedkar's favorite right. So, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar considered this right to constitutional remedies as the heart and soul of Constitution, because it gives citizens the right to approach to the High Court or Supreme Court if any fundamental rights are violated. And under this right, the court can give various orders known as writs. What is a writ? Orders issued by courts. And these writs are 5 types. One is habeas corpus, second is mandamus, third is prohibition, fourth is quo warranto, fifth is certiorari. Now let us learn about these writs in detail. What is a writ? It is a order given by court. Now, habeas corpus. Habeas corpus means a writ given by the court to release the arrested if there is no proper valid reason behind his arrest. Is that clear, guys? And now, mandamus. Mandamus means a writ is issued to the government officer if he is not doing his duty or doing corrupt practices. Yes, writ is issued to government officer for his or her illegal activities. That is called mandamus. And what is habeas corpus? If the arrested person is found that he has no valid reason to be arrested, then he can approach to the court with his legal theme and take habeas corpus so that he can be released. If the reason is invalid, he is released, and that is under habeas corpus. We can see habeas corpus frequently when you read the news. This is very important, guys. And the third is prohibition. Prohibition is, this writ is issued by higher court to the lower court if any case is going beyond its jurisdiction. Okay, if a case is going beyond the court's jurisdiction, then that is called prohibition. Now, fourth is quo warranto. Quo warranto meaning is by what authority? Okay, if a court finds that the person holding the government office is not legal, then the court issues this writ, that is quo warranto. By what authority are you holding the office? Because he might be suspended, or he might be, he might give a bribe of 10 lakhs and sit in this office. So in that case, if the court gets to know about this government officer, then by quo warranto, the court issues a writ to leave that government office. And the fifth is certiorari. Certiorari is a writ issued by higher court to lower court. It is issued when the lower court lack the jurisdiction or overrule its powers, or if there is any error in the processing. Now you might get a confusion between prohibition and certiorari, because this is issued by higher court to lower court and this is also issued by higher court to lower court. Now what is the difference? The difference is, prohibition is if the lower court crosses its jurisdiction, which is out of its area. And what is this? Certiorari means if the lower court provide unequal justice, or provide favorable justice only to one section of the people. So in that case, that is called certiorari, and this certiorari writ is issued by the high court to lower court. Is that clear? If there is wrong in this duty, then certiorari is issued. If they are going out of their jurisdiction, prohibition is issued. And what is quo warranto? If a person holds office illegally, that is also government office, then the court issues that person to leave that office because you have come illegally. So is that clear? All these writs are very important. We have only 5 writs, so I think you will be perfect in reading those writs. And the second part of the chapter is directive principles of state policy. These are very much important because in every prelims we'll get at least 2 questions from this. Now, what is this directive principles of state policy means? This means this DPSP, we call it DPSP in short. This DPSP provides a direction for the welfare state. So what are the measures to be taken by the state? What are the rights should be given to the people? What are the implementations should be done for development of environment and forest? All these come under directive principle of state policy. These are very important. But see, the sad thing is these are not justifiable. We can't approach to the court if this violation is done in the directive principles of state policy. We'll learn about this. Now, what is the aim? The aim of directive principles of state policy is welfare state. It provides certain rights other than fundamental rights. See, for every country, for everyone, right to education is very important. We have learned fundamental rights. Did you find right to education? No. Fundamental rights are only basic rights. For living, right to education is very important. To live a dignity life, right to education is important. Food is important. All these are given in directive principles of state policy. So right to education was added in Article 21A. These directive principles also provide special directions. This suggests the parliament to implement some laws which favors the people, and those laws are taken by this directive principles of state policy. Right to education was also taken like that, and from that only right to education, Article 21 is being implemented. And the second point is, see, I have said the government should also implement for the well-being of people. Midday meals has been come up, and this also were taken from directive principles. And midday meals, what does this midday meals means? It is providing meals to all the children who come to the government schools. Why? Because it directly helps to increase the literate people in our country and also decrease the hunger rate. And the other is, it is included in part 4. What is a part of fundamental rights? The fundamental right part is 3. And how many parts do we have in the constitution? We have 22 parts. And these are not legalized. Why these are not legalized? These are not legalized because to implement this in practical scenario, we should be developed socially and economically. Socially, we are still not developed because I'll tell you one example. Even the political parties use these religious diversities for the welfare of their own party. So what does that mean? Still the caste system is prevalent in India. And when coming to economic sector, still we are not developed. So for those two reasons, these are not legalized till now. But they will take slowly from, if the social and economic systems cooperate in a state, then they will implement one article from this directive principles of state policy. Like that, Goa has been implemented. Article 44 is Uniform Civil Code. Uniform Civil Code means providing equal law to all the people. That is, even for Muslims, even for Hindus, even for Christians, and even for all the people from all religious sectors present in India will get the equal right. Is that clear, guys? See, I'll tell you one thing. In some area, a Hindu who does 2 marriages is legally accepted. But if a Christian or Muslim, I don't have clarity on this, if they do like that, it is legally not accepted. What does it mean? This means providing unequal justice to different religions. For Hindus it is legal and for Christians it is not legal. So what is legally correct? Legally these are not correct. So this comes from ethics point of view. Let's not discuss upon this. The main theme is, for one religion one is correct and for other religion the other is correct. So to provide this, to eradicate or to abolish these disturbances in the law, Uniform Civil Code has been implemented in the state of Goa. And that was the first state to implement this Uniform Civil Code. This is Article 44 and this is from Directive Principles of State Policy. And soon many politicians are telling that Uniform Civil Code will be implemented overall India, but we don't know till how much they'll come forward to implement this. And now, okay, Article 21A, that is right to education from from the age 6 to 14 has been implemented from Directive Principles. Tribunals means temporary courts. See, we have administrative tribunals, forest environment tribunals, all these tribunals. Why? Because for the speedy justice, these tribunals are implemented, and these are also taken from this concept. Midday meals, etc. are the examples which are taken from the Directive Principles of State Policy. Okay, that's all for this video. Thank you, friends.